So what I'm going to be doing in today's video is having a look at these 3 spray bottles. So I've got one from IK Sprayers, one from Kwazar and one from Pressol. So I'm going to be comparing them to each other and giving you my kind of overall thoughts as to which are best for certain situations and chemicals. Now I know spray bottles aren't the most exciting of topics, however, if you are going to get a set of these, they do get pretty pricey. So it's probably best if you have a look into which one's actually going to work best for you. So I'll get these two out of the way, and I'm going to start off with this one here, which is the IK Multi 360 sprayer. So this one comes in both 500ml and 1 litre versions. I have the 500ml version here. And you can also get 360 and non-360 versions of these. Now the 360 bit refers to the fact that you can spray this bottle whilst upside down. If you give it a little jiggle, you can hear that little weighted pickup tube in here. And if you open it up, you can see it as well. This is also removable, so if that rattling is winding you up, then you can obviously take it off. You don't have to use it all the time, or you can just get the standard version of this instead if you never think you're going to use it. So this has a canyon spray trigger, which most of you probably are familiar with. There's some adjustability here in terms of the spray pattern, and I'm going to overlay some shots of showing that in action, as I don't want to mess up my garage and get it absolutely soaking. You just adjust it here. There are some measurements on the side, so you can see how much you're roughly diluting. However, they are quite difficult to see. It's probably just going to be easier if you use a measuring jug and measure out your solutions that way, to be honest. The bottle on this is really sturdy. There is a tiny bit of flex to it here, but it has these harder parts here, so I've dropped this a few times and had no trouble with it. And the only other thing really to mention with this is that you do get this little ID label. You can flip it the other way around and it's green, so you can dilute sort of different chemicals and identify them that way, but you can also write it on the front here, although I would recommend using a decent pen for it as it does rub off fairly easily. And these do have a tendency to sort of pop out when you're using them. You can get stickers for these instead, mainly for the 1 litre versions. There's not a huge amount of space really on the 500ml for a sticker, but you could probably squeeze one on there if you're looking for something a little bit more durable than that. In terms of price of these, they're coming in the middle of the pack here. So £10.95 for the Multi 360, the 500ml one. And if you want the 1 litre version, the cheapest I've seen them for online is £12. As always, I'm going to pop links in the description to all the sprayers so you can have a look and check prices yourself too. Next up, I'm going to take a look at the Pressol Sprayer, which is the most expensive in the bunch, and I'm going to get to the price of that in a minute. This again has a very sturdy bottle, and it does also have the 360. All of these bottles do have that. You've got it just at the bottom here, and you can remove that if you want to, if it's bugging you, which occasionally it does because it does rattle quite a bit. So this is actually the Pressol Industrial version. There is a household version of this, and it basically doesn't have as durable a trigger inside, and also it doesn't have that 360 as well. It does come in a little bit cheaper than this though, so if you're looking for something else, then that is one to consider. And that does have a translucent bottle, so you are going to be able to see inside it a little bit easier when you're measuring stuff out. This doesn't have any measuring markings, and obviously you can't see inside it at all. What this does have though, that the IK 360 Mini does not, is a double action trigger. Again, I'm going to overlay shots so you can actually see that in action, and it is a very good trigger head on this. Probably the most powerful, and it's good if you are really trying to sort of throw as much products out there as possible, so things like citruses, wheel cleaners and stuff like that is really useful. However, for products where you're going to require a little bit more precision, you don't want to put as much product on there, things like quick detailers, glass sprays, things like that. I don't think double actions are as good really. You have to sort of control them a little bit more, and I think just having a single action sprayer is probably a bit better there. So as I said previously, the Pressol ones are really quite expensive, particularly compared to these two. So if you go for the industrial version, you can get a 500, 750ml and a litre version, and those go from £16 for the 500ml, 18 for the 750 and all the way up to 20 quid for the 1 litre one. The household versions are a little bit cheaper, but of course you aren't getting quite as durable a trigger on that if you are using sort of really heavy chemicals through it. The same with these two, to be honest. These are designed for similar chemicals you'd use with the household one. If you're really going to be putting sort of super alkaline stuff through it, which you're probably not for detailing, then you probably are going to want to go with the industrial, but for most detailing chemicals, I do think you're probably going to be alright just using the sort of standard household versions or these two here. So I'm going to move on to the cheapest option here, which is the Kwazar Mercury Pro 360. Again, obviously as the name suggests, it does have that 360 ability. If you open it up, you have that weighted pickup tube, and I'll see if that one, yeah, that one's removable too if it is bugging you, so that's nice too. That one is actually metal, the other two are plastic, so that is a pretty nice touch. I'm not sure whether it would make a massive difference in practice though. Kwazar also do an alkaline version of this, but it doesn't have that 360 ability. So if you are looking for that, then obviously you're going to want to go with these Pro ones instead. It does have some measurements on the side of the bottle. These are probably a little bit clearer out of all of them, as it does have this kind of more translucent strip. This also has that double action trigger head that it has on the Pressol. So the 500ml versions of this are actually only £6.50, and the 1 litre versions are £8.95, so really a lot cheaper than the Pressol. You don't really get much in terms of ID. You could pop a sticker on here if you wanted to, but they do come in a few different colours, so you can get red, blue, yellow and green. So if you wanted to sort of colour code your chemicals, you could do that too. Probably the best in terms of sort of identifying them out of the three here. Now, if I grab the two others, I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a rundown of the sort of features and how to really decide which one you want. In terms of the capacity options, you're getting 500ml and a litre with the IK, 500ml and a litre with the Kwazar, and with the Pressol you can also get a 750ml version as well as the 500ml and 1 litre versions. They all have that 360 ability, so that's great if you are looking for it. The differences here really are the trigger heads. So do you want a single action spray trigger, go with the IK. If you want a double, then these two are going to be the option that you're going to want to go with. One thing that I will say though in terms of the spray triggers on these two is that I do think this one's a bit stiffer. It does feel a bit sort of heavier to pull. This one does feel a touch easier. I think you're potentially going to get hand fatigue with this one a little bit more, whereas if this one is a bit easier but the output's not quite as good, so it really depends on what's more important to you. In terms of identification, you've obviously got the name tags on the IK sprayer. You haven't really got anything here, but you've got some colour coding options on the Kwazar, and you don't have anything on the Pressol, unless you wanted to stick your own stickers on there, which obviously you could do with any of these. Again, in terms of measurements on the bottle, not really got anything to show you here. On the household version, you can see inside the bottle a little bit more, but this is the worst in terms of that. Say the Kwazar is the best. It's got the most obvious markings on there. And the IK does have some markings, but again, not that easy to see. And finally, in terms of price, obviously there are loads of different size options of these, so I'm just going to compare the 500ml ones. These are both 500ml, this is 750, but for the purposes of the price comparison, I'm just going to do the 500s. So the Kwazar is the cheapest at £6.50, followed by the IK Mini, which is £10.95, and then finally the Pressol is the most expensive at £16. So what I am going to do, as always, is pop links in the descriptions to these so you can check them out and the different prices and options available. If you have tried any of these, or especially if you have tried more than one of them, it would be great to hear your thoughts in the comments, as it will hopefully be helpful for other people watching this video and deciding which to buy as well. If you have enjoyed this video, then it would be brilliant if you could drop it a like, and thanks very much for watching.